The world is divided into two categories: the players and the pieces. You have felt this your entire life. You walk into a room and you feel invisible. You see others command attention effortlessly, getting the opportunities, the respect, the power. And you work hard, stay humble, try to be competent, but you're often overlooked. You wonder why your talent isn't enough, why your good intentions don't get rewarded. It feels like you're stuck on the sidelines while others make moves, changing the game around you. Here's the harsh truth. Power doesn't care about your good intentions. It doesn't care how hard you work or how genuine you are. Power is about leverage, about knowing how to move the pieces on the board. It's a game that's played by those who understand its rules, even if they're not always the most visible or the most obvious players. If you're ready to make that shift and claim your own seat at the table, make sure to subscribe. Think of it as a commitment to yourself, a commitment to growth, to learning, and to stepping into the powerful person you're meant to become. Let's begin. 1. Don't outshine the master. Play the supporting role. You've probably been there before, trying to impress someone with your brilliance, only to have them brush it off, or worse, feel completely indifferent. It stings, doesn't it? You put your best foot forward, eager to show what you've got, yet you're met with cold silence or even dismissal. But here's the truth that no one tells you. When you shine too brightly in front of powerful people, you don't inspire them, you threaten them. Insecurity is a powerful force, especially for those who hold influence. It's easy to assume that the most powerful people are the most confident, but in reality, many of them are fragile. Their self-worth often hinges on their status, their image, and their reputation. So when you come in, full of energy and ideas, too eager to show your brilliance, you risk making them feel diminished. That's not the path to influence, it's the path to being sidelined. You become just another person they need to outshine, another competitor for the spotlight. Instead of focusing on showing your worth, shift your approach. The true power lies in playing the supporting role. You see, true mastery in connecting with powerful people is about being strategic. It's about understanding that influence often comes from knowing when to step back rather than charge forward. In the presence of a master, let them lead. Elevate their sense of self. Instead of competing, support. Frame your ideas in a way that makes them feel like the genius. Ask questions that guide them to the answers, letting them feel like they've uncovered something important. When they believe they're the ones driving the conversation, they'll trust you more. The result? You gain access, influence, and trust. And in time, you'll find yourself in the inner circles, not because you forced your way in, but because you allowed them to feel superior, without ever compromising your own value. It's a delicate balance, but it's a powerful one. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." In the context of connecting with powerful people, this means that the fear of being overlooked, of not being seen as brilliant enough, is often a self-created barrier. We imagine that by holding back, we're missing opportunities, but in reality, the opposite is true. By not overpowering the person in charge, you build trust and gain their favor, not through force, but through strategic humility. Think of it like this. When you enter a room full of powerful people, your goal shouldn't be to outshine, but to be the silent architect of their success. By lifting them up, you make yourself indispensable. When you create an environment where they feel secure, you become someone they want to keep close. Their respect isn't just earned by being impressive, it's earned by showing that you understand the dynamics of power and can navigate them without creating unnecessary friction. As the Stoics taught, it's not the external forces that shape us, but our responses to them. Don't respond by trying to force your brilliance into the spotlight. Respond by knowing when to step aside and let someone else shine. The real key here is patience and restraint. It might feel unnatural, especially in a world that celebrates the loudest voices, but by letting others take the lead, you're playing a much more powerful game. You're not just a piece on the board, you're positioning yourself as an unseen force, the person who makes things happen behind the scenes. And when the time comes for you to step forward, it'll be because they see you as an asset, not a threat. So let them have the glory, and you take the influence. It's a slow burn, but it's one that will last. 2. Keep your intentions hidden. Be unpredictable. It's a simple mistake, but one many of us make. We show our cards too early, whether it's in a conversation, a business meeting, or even in personal relationships. The moment people figure out exactly what you want from them, they have the power to use it against you. Desperation repels power. When people see that you need something from them, it often triggers their defensive mechanisms. They sense your neediness and instinctively pull away. Why? Because they don't want to be a stepping stone in someone else's climb. They want to feel respected, valued, and in control. So, if you're always showing your hand, you're essentially giving up your leverage. You're making yourself predictable, and that's not the way to build powerful connections. The real power lies in mystery. When you keep your intentions hidden, when you don't immediately reveal what you want from someone, you force them to guess. They begin to project their own desires, their own needs onto you. You become a mirror of what they want to see. That uncertainty sparks curiosity. People want to figure you out. It's this curiosity that creates intrigue, and it's intrigue that opens doors. Think about it. When someone is mysterious, they become irresistible. Their presence is magnetic, and the more they keep to themselves, the more others are drawn in, trying to figure out the puzzle. When you're talking to someone influential, don't immediately dive into what you need. Keep the conversation light. Talk about art, philosophy, their hobbies, their interests. Let them feel like they're in the spotlight. Ask questions that let them talk about themselves. Not only does this make them feel good, but it also keeps them wondering, why is this person so interested in me? What do they want? By steering the conversation away from your needs, you allow them to fill in the gaps with their own assumptions. And when they start assuming you're the one in control, you don't have to spell out your goals. Instead, let them chase you. Let them come to their own conclusions. The more unpredictable you are, the more powerful you become. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." This doesn't mean revealing every part of yourself immediately, especially when you're navigating power dynamics. It's about being authentic in a way that makes others guess and engage with you. It's not about hiding who you are, but rather about not being an open book that others can read too easily. People are naturally drawn to those who are hard to pin down, to those who don't lay everything out on the table from the start. By maintaining a level of unpredictability, you allow yourself to move strategically, guiding others in a way that keeps you ahead of the game. In business or in life, it's easy to fall into the trap of over-explaining yourself, of oversharing your needs. You might think it's the way to build trust, but more often than not, it's a way to give away your power. Instead, focus on creating a space where others feel the need to pursue you. Let them see just enough to be intrigued. You're not playing games, you're playing the long game. And the long game requires patience, subtlety, and a keen understanding of human nature. In the world of influence, the people who get ahead are not always the loudest or the most transparent. They are the ones who keep their intentions hidden and their strategies flexible. They don't need to beg for help or constantly seek validation. Instead, they allow their presence to speak for itself. People feel compelled to figure them out, to offer their assistance because they sense there's more beneath the surface than meets the eye. This approach isn't manipulative, It's strategic. It's about understanding that mystery breeds attraction, and when you're attractive in that way, you become a valuable asset. And when you become a valuable asset, doors that were once closed begin to open wide. 3. Speak to their self-interest. What's in it for them? It's a common mistake, and one that many of us have made at some point. We approach powerful people hoping for a favor, and we begin with our struggles. We talk about how hard things have been for us, how much we deserve a chance, or how we're just looking for a break. We wear our vulnerabilities on our sleeves, expecting them to see our worth and step in to help. But here's the hard truth. Powerful people don't have time for your sob story. They're not in the business of offering charity. They are driven by self-interest. They have their own problems, their own goals, and their own priorities. They're not looking for someone to pity. They're looking for someone who can solve a problem. If you want to connect with them, you need to position yourself as the solution, not as someone asking for a handout. Think about it. When you're faced with a challenge, who do you turn to? It's not the person who constantly talks about their own struggles or who asks for sympathy. You turn to the person who offers a solution, who makes your life easier, who helps you move forward. That's the person you want to be. The moment you make it clear that you can help them, you're no longer begging for their time or attention. You're offering something they genuinely need. And that shift in mindset changes everything. When you approach someone for help or a favor, don't lead with what you need. Instead, focus on what they need. What are they struggling with? What challenge are they facing that you can solve? Powerful people often feel isolated. They may have many people around them, but how many of those people truly understand their struggles and offer practical solutions? If you can provide that, you become someone they rely on. You become a partner, not a beggar. This shift in perspective, from needing something to offering something, positions you as an asset rather than a liability. So the next time you find yourself in a position where you need something from someone influential, pause. Don't start by talking about your struggles or asking for favors. Instead, shift the focus to them. What are they dealing with? How can you make their life easier? What can you offer that will help them achieve their goals? When you approach them from this angle, you become a valuable ally, not someone just looking to get by. This is the key to true connection, focusing on self-interest, not from a manipulative standpoint, but from a place of mutual benefit. When you speak to someone's self-interest, you create an exchange that's far more valuable than a one-sided request. You're not just asking for help, you're building a relationship where both sides win. And the more you do this, the more you'll find that people are drawn to you, not because of your neediness, but because of the value you provide. So, next time you reach out to someone powerful, remember this: speak to their self-interest, focus on their needs, and offer your solutions. This shift will change the way you connect and will take you a step closer to the relationships and opportunities you've been seeking. 4. Master the art of strategic absence. You might think that being available all the time is the key to building connections, to making yourself indispensable. It seems logical, right? The more you show up, the more people will notice, appreciate, and need you. But here's the truth. Over-availability does the opposite. When you're always there, always answering calls, always replying to texts and emails instantly, you'd lose your value. You become common, and power doesn't respect commonness. Power respects rarity. Think about it. When something is always available, it loses its appeal. It's only when something becomes scarce that it gains true value. If you want to be seen as someone who commands attention, someone who is truly valuable, you need to learn the art of strategic absence. Imagine this: you're not always reachable. You don't drop everything to respond immediately. Instead, you create a sense of mystery around your presence. When you do engage, people are grateful for your time because they know it's not something you give away easily. Your availability becomes a privilege, not a constant expectation. This is where the real power lies, when others start to crave your company, not because they're entitled to it, but because it feels special. The key to building true influence isn't in being everywhere at once. It's in making people want you more by being a rare commodity. As Seneca once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This is a reminder that your time and attention are your most valuable resources. You are not free if you are constantly at the beck and call of everyone else. Your value increases when you learn to be selective with your time. You don't need to be the first one to respond or the one who shows up at every opportunity. You're in control. When you choose when to show up and when to step back, you begin to master the art of strategic absence. Think about the most powerful people in your life. Are they constantly available, or do they make their presence felt at the right moments, leaving you wanting more? If you're always there, there's nothing for others to chase. You're simply filling space. But when you create a sense of absence, you force people to wonder what you're doing, where you are, and when they'll get to see you again. This absence creates a kind of magnetic pull, making them appreciate your time even more when it is given. This doesn't mean being cold or distant, but it does mean being intentional with your time. You don't need to say yes to every meeting or respond immediately to every message. By delaying your response, by stepping back from time to time, you shift the power dynamic. You stop being at the mercy of others' schedules, and you start controlling your own. In doing so, you create an aura of mystery, of value, something that draws people in, making them see your time as precious and worth waiting for. This approach doesn't just apply to business. It can be a powerful tool in all areas of life. Whether it's with friends, colleagues, or even romantic relationships, learning to be strategically absent elevates your presence. You stop chasing people, and instead you let them chase you. Your time becomes something people can't take for granted, and that's how you become someone others truly desire to connect with. So the next time you feel the urge to respond immediately or drop everything for someone else, ask yourself, what would happen if I let this moment pass? What would happen if I made them wait? You might find that the absence itself holds the key to deeper, more meaningful connections. Power doesn't come from being available all the time. It comes from being the person others are willing to wait for. 5. Become their mirror. Reflect their best self. When it comes to connecting with powerful people, one of the most effective techniques is often the simplest. Become their mirror. People naturally gravitate toward those who make them feel understood. And what better way to make someone feel understood than by reflecting their own image back at them? When you're around a powerful person, your job isn't to talk about your own experiences, your struggles, or your achievements. Instead, it's about learning how to connect with them on a deeper level by focusing on their world, their perspective, and their values. People want to feel seen, heard, and validated, and when you can offer that, you create an instant bond. But how do you actually do this? It's not about copying them or being fake. It's about understanding their energy and matching it. For example, if they speak with energy, enthusiasm, and passion, you meet them with the same tone. If they're more reserved, take a quieter, more thoughtful approach. This might sound subtle, but it's powerful. When you align yourself with their energy, you bypass their conscious mind and speak directly to their subconscious. You make them feel comfortable with you because you're not challenging their sense of self, you're affirming it. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. This idea is key when you're reflecting someone else's best self. It's not about mimicking them in a superficial way. It's about understanding what they value and how they express themselves, then mirroring that. By matching their tone, you show that you not only understand them intellectually, but also emotionally. It's a form of connection that goes beyond words. It's about attuning yourself to their unspoken cues, their body language, and their rhythm. When you observe how a powerful person communicates, pay attention to the smallest details. Are they the kind of person who uses metaphors related to sports or competition? Or perhaps they prefer war imagery, talking about battles and conquests. When you reflect these types of metaphors back in your own speech, you're creating an unspoken language between the two of you. You're telling them, without saying a word, that you understand their world. The more you can do this, the more comfortable they'll feel with you, and the more likely they'll open up, trust you, and see you as an ally, not just another face in the crowd. This technique of mirroring isn't manipulation. It's simply deepening your connection by making someone feel like they're understood. When someone feels seen in this way, they drop their defenses. They feel at ease, and as a result, they're more likely to listen to you, collaborate with you, or even elevate you. Think about how you feel when someone truly gets you, when they mirror your excitement or understand your struggle without you having to explain every little detail. That feeling is what you want to create in the minds of the people you interact with, especially those in positions of power. Now, this doesn't mean that you should be inauthentic or pretend to be something you're not. Authenticity is still key, but this form of mirroring is about giving people the opportunity to see the best version of themselves through you. You're not just reflecting their words, you're reflecting their energy and their values. When you do this consistently, you begin to build a genuine connection based on mutual understanding. As you start using this technique, you'll find that people will naturally begin to trust you more. They'll start seeing you as someone who gets them, as someone who speaks their language, both figuratively and literally. This simple but effective strategy is one of the most powerful ways to connect with people at all levels. It builds rapport, fosters trust, and helps you integrate into their world in a way that feels both natural and profound. By becoming their mirror, you allow them to see the best of themselves reflected in you, and in turn, you unlock doors to greater influence and connection. 6. Control the information flow. Become the gatekeeper. In today's world, information is power. But not just any information, it's the right information. We've all heard the saying, knowledge is power, but what most people miss is that not all knowledge is created equal. The most powerful people are often surrounded by yes men who only tell them what they want to hear. They're told everything is going great, that their decisions are flawless, and that they're on the right track. But here's the problem. The most influential people in the world aren't looking for validation. They're looking for real, unfiltered insights. They crave the kind of information that will help them make better decisions, see opportunities others miss, and ultimately stay ahead of the curve. If you want to position yourself as someone indispensable, you need to become their source of that valuable, unfiltered intelligence. When you're the one providing them with the kind of information that actually helps them navigate challenges, you move from being just another person in their network to a vital asset. The more you know, and the more strategically you share that knowledge, the more valuable you become to them. You stop being someone they tolerate and become someone they seek out. And that shift can unlock doors that would otherwise remain closed. Now, this doesn't mean you should be a gossip, constantly sharing rumors or talking about things you overheard. Far from it. Real influence comes from curating information that's useful, that adds value to their lives. If you're constantly feeding them the latest news, or better yet, the insights that help them solve problems they care about, you become a trusted source. The people who stand out in any field aren't those who simply talk the loudest. They're the ones who speak with purpose, sharing the insights that truly matter. You might be wondering, how do you curate the right information? Start by listening more than you speak. Pay attention to what matters to the people you're trying to connect with. What are they struggling with? What decisions are they wrestling with? What challenges are they facing? Once you have that understanding, you can begin to provide them with information that actually moves the needle in their world. It's not about bombarding them with data, it's about offering them the insights that will make a difference. Being the source of valuable information requires patience and awareness. You have to build trust before you can offer your insights. You need to know when to speak and when to stay silent. The more you refine your ability to provide just the right information at just the right time, the more indispensable you become. This is how you earn the kind of influence that lasts, not by constantly pushing your ideas or opinions, but by positioning yourself as someone who knows the things that others don't. As you start to implement this, you'll notice a shift in the way people perceive you. You won't just be another face in the crowd. You'll become the one they turn to when they need real answers, the one they trust to provide clarity in a sea of noise. And that's how you build true, lasting influence, by mastering the flow of information, by becoming the gatekeeper who controls the insights that matter. When you do this, you're not just sharing knowledge, you're creating an indispensable role for yourself in the lives of the people who matter most. 7. Find common enemies. Bond over shared struggles. There's a powerful dynamic that often goes unnoticed. Nothing builds a connection like a shared enemy. Think about it. When you're in the midst of a struggle, who do you turn to for support? More often than not, it's the person who understands your frustration, the one who's battling the same opponent. In the world of power dynamics, this concept is key. Powerful people are often surrounded by people who agree with them, but rarely are they surrounded by people who truly understand their frustrations. They're dealing with rivals, systems that hold them back, and constant challenges. Align yourself with their struggle, and you suddenly become someone they feel deeply connected to. Now, this doesn't mean you should start bashing people for the sake of it. The goal isn't to throw out negativity or engage in pointless drama. Instead, it's about identifying what they truly despise, the things that block their progress, or the forces they view as an obstacle. Powerful people don't need more people who echo their opinions for the sake of fitting in. They need people who can see their struggles, validate their frustrations, and join them in the fight. It's about showing them that you're not just another follower, but a true ally who understands what they're up against. Think about the most powerful relationships in your own life. More than likely, they're the ones you've built with people who've shared your struggles. Maybe it's a colleague who's fighting against the same system you are, or a friend who understands the same challenges. It's not about having everything in common. It's about finding common ground in your frustrations, in the things that are holding both of you back. This creates an unspoken bond that goes beyond surface-level connection. When you both recognize a common enemy, whether it's inefficiency, corruption, or a competitor, you instantly become allies in the struggle. This concept is incredibly powerful in the realm of influence. If you want to build deep, meaningful relationships with powerful people, find out what they despise. What are they fighting against? What obstacles do they see in their path? And then align yourself with that struggle. Show them that you're not just someone looking to get ahead. You're someone who wants to help them take down the things that threaten their progress. By validating their frustration and fighting alongside them, You move from being an outsider to an indispensable ally. But be careful with how you approach this. It's important not to engage in mindless bashing of others just to appear aligned. Your indignation needs to be righteous. It needs to be about more than just venting. It needs to be about understanding the problem and working together to find a solution. If you simply complain without offering insight or action, you risk becoming just another voice in the crowd. But when you join in the struggle with the intention to make things better, to create change, you forge a much stronger bond. This is how real influence is built. Not by flattery, not by trying to be everything the other person wants, but by aligning with their struggles and fighting the same battle. You'll be surprised at how quickly you can move from being an outsider to a trusted ally. When you're both facing down the same enemy, your connection goes from transactional to deeply meaningful. And that's where the true power lies, in the struggle shared, not in the victory alone. 8. Play to their fantasy. Be what they want to be. We all have fantasies, visions of who we want to be, how we want to be perceived, and what we wish to accomplish. Powerful people are no different. They have their own dreams of greatness, their own ideals of strength, wisdom, or vision. But here's the thing. Their public persona is often built on the roles they aspire to play, whether consciously or unconsciously. And if you understand that, you gain a profound insight into how to connect with them. Your job, in these moments, is to step into the role they want to see. It's not about pretending to be something you're not. It's about aligning yourself with their self-image and supporting the fantasy they've created about themselves. When you encounter someone who's powerful and influential, take a moment to listen carefully. Pay attention to their words, their actions, and the way they carry themselves. What do they want the world to see? Are they looking to be seen as a wise leader, someone with authority and insight? If so, you need to step into the role of the eager student. Ask them for advice, show that you respect their wisdom, and allow them to feel that their experience is valuable. When you position yourself as someone who seeks their guidance, you confirm their fantasy of being a leader, and you open the door to a deeper connection. On the other hand, some powerful people prefer to be seen as rebels, as visionaries who challenge the status quo. These people don't want to be boxed in by conventional expectations. They want to be seen as bold, revolutionary figures. If you identify that this is their fantasy, your role is to become their partner in crime. Stand beside them, support their ideas, and reflect their desire for change and disruption. When you play this part, you align with their inner vision and provide them with someone who believes in their cause, who helps bring that fantasy to life. But how do you know which role to play? It starts by being an observer. Listen closely to what they say in casual conversations. Notice how they frame their thoughts. Are they constantly talking about their vision of the future? Do they express frustration with the current system? Or perhaps they speak with reverence about their past experiences and the lessons they've learned. All of these clues give you insight into the role they want to play in their own life story. Once you understand that, you can position yourself to support them in fulfilling that role, to step into the fantasy they've crafted for themselves. In the process, don't forget that this dynamic works both ways. As much as you play to their fantasy, it's important that you remain grounded in your own sense of purpose. This isn't about losing yourself or becoming a mere tool for someone else's self-image. Instead, it's about recognizing the power of shared aspiration, where you become an integral part of their journey, and they, in turn, become a part of yours. You align with their fantasy, but you never forget your own path. This approach doesn't just apply to powerful figures, it works in all aspects of life. People, in general, are drawn to those who can make them feel validated in their own self-image, Whether in personal relationships or professional settings, when you understand the roles others want to play and align with those aspirations, you create a space where real connection can flourish. And that connection, when it's based on mutual understanding and alignment, becomes the foundation for something far more powerful than a mere transaction. It becomes a partnership built on trust, respect, and shared vision. 9. Stay calm. Be the emotional anchor. Powerful people often carry an immense amount of pressure. They make decisions that impact businesses, teams, and sometimes entire industries. The weight of their responsibilities can feel crushing at times. Yet many people around them add to that pressure with their own drama, complaints, and urgent problems. They become another source of stress rather than a solution. This is where the real power of emotional intelligence comes in. If you want to connect with these influential people and build a meaningful relationship, you have to become the calm amidst the storm. In moments of chaos or crisis, the person who stays steady is the one people turn to. Instead of feeding into the panic, you have to offer clarity. When others are frantic, you remain composed. When they're angry, you respond with calmness. This isn't about suppressing your emotions. It's about understanding that your ability to remain level-headed can be the key to building trust and influence. People will gravitate toward you when they know that in moments of high stress, you won't add to the noise. You'll bring a sense of peace and direction that they desperately need. Carl Jung once said, "The greatest burden a person can bear is to be in the wrong place." In many ways, this is what happens when someone powerful is surrounded by people who amplify their stress. When they're already carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders, the last thing they need is more drama. To be the person who brings peace instead of chaos is to become indispensable. You are offering them exactly what they need in those critical moments: calm, clarity, and solutions. Being that emotional anchor requires self-control and awareness. It's easy to get caught up in the energy of a stressful situation, but when you're able to step back, detach from the chaos, and offer simple, actionable solutions, you show your true value. When someone powerful is struggling with a problem, don't add to it by talking about how difficult things are for you or offering complex ideas that overwhelm them further. Instead, focus on offering clear, concise solutions. Use calm language, statements like, "It's handled," or "I've got it under control." These words not only reassure them, but also give them back a sense of control, something they desperately need when everything else feels out of hand. When you respond to a powerful person's stress with clear-headedness, you help them regain their equilibrium. They no longer feel like they're drowning in chaos. Instead, they feel like they have someone who can help them navigate through the storm. Over time, this creates a deep bond built on trust and mutual respect. They'll start to rely on you not just for your skills, but for your ability to bring peace in the most challenging situations. You won't just be another person in the room, you'll be the person who helps them breathe, think, and act with confidence, even when everything feels uncertain. This ability to remain calm also speaks to a deeper level of emotional intelligence. It's not about suppressing your feelings. It's about having the maturity to understand the impact of your emotional state on others. When you learn to control your emotions in high-stakes situations, you become someone who influences the environment around them rather than reacting to it. This doesn't mean you suppress your frustrations or anxieties. It means you recognize when your emotions can contribute to or detract from the situation. You understand that your emotional state is a tool, one that can either help or harm depending on how you wield it. Over time, this calmness will become a part of your reputation. Powerful people will start seeking you out because they know you bring a sense of steadiness that is rare. They will know that when they need clarity or a simple solution, you're the one they can count on. You will no longer just be someone they know, you will be someone they trust with their most stressful situations. And that trust? It opens doors to deeper connections, higher levels of influence, and opportunities to grow alongside them. 10. Be adaptable. Assume formlessness. In a world that constantly changes, there's one truth that remains constant. Rigid people are easy to box in. They get stuck in one mode of being, one way of thinking, and one set of expectations. But the most successful people know how to adapt. They don't let themselves be confined by the roles others assign them. They shift and mold themselves to the situation at hand. Whether they need to be aggressive, assertive, or submissive, they know how to adjust. This flexibility gives them an edge in any environment, because they can fit into any role at any time. If you want to move through the world with power and influence, you need to learn how to be fluid, like water. Water doesn't stay fixed in one shape. It flows, it adapts, it finds its way into every crack and corner. If you can become adaptable like that, you'll find it easier to navigate through different situations, connect with various types of people, and ultimately gain the trust of those around you. Whether it's in business, relationships, or power dynamics, being adaptable means you can meet any challenge head-on without getting stuck in one fixed identity. This is where many people fail. They define themselves too rigidly, attaching their identity to a specific set of characteristics or behaviors. They believe they have to be one thing, and that's it. But life doesn't work that way. The world around you is constantly shifting. People change, circumstances change, and what worked yesterday might not work today. If you're too attached to a particular identity, you'll miss out on opportunities, or worse, you'll find yourself in situations where you're out of place or ineffective. The key is to stay fluid. Adapt your approach depending on the person or the situation. The more adaptable you are, the more doors open up for you, because people appreciate versatility and the ability to handle various challenges. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." This means that the real power comes when we embrace all parts of ourselves, not just the rigid parts we think define us. To be adaptable doesn't mean to be inauthentic. It means embracing the full range of who we are and learning how to express those parts depending on what's needed. Being flexible doesn't mean changing your core values, but it does mean being smart about how you communicate those values in different situations. It's about finding the balance between staying true to yourself and being flexible enough to navigate the world around you. The more you practice this adaptability, the more you'll realize just how powerful it can be. You can walk into any room, no matter the people, and fit in seamlessly. You won't be stuck in one identity, trying to force yourself to be something you're not. Instead, you'll be able to adjust your approach based on the energy and needs of the room. Whether you're dealing with a high-pressure situation, a difficult negotiation, or a personal challenge, you'll have the tools to shift your behavior and communicate in the most effective way possible. This is how the truly successful move through life. They aren't locked into one version of themselves. They evolve, grow, and adapt. They don't fight against the current. They learn how to flow with it. In doing so, they gain the trust of those around them and create deeper, more meaningful connections. They become valuable because they can handle any situation with grace and effectiveness. And ultimately, that adaptability is what sets them apart from everyone else. You don't have to be fixed in one place. You don't have to be stuck in a role. Instead, you can be fluid, like water, and adapt to whatever life throws at you. And when you do, you'll find that the world becomes a place where anything is possible. 11. Create dependence. Become irreplaceable. In any organization, in any network, there's one truth that stands. Powerful people don't like to feel replaceable. They want to know that they're indispensable, that their value is unmatched. If you can create a space where you're seen as irreplaceable, you not only elevate your status, you secure your place in their world. The key to leveraging real power is making yourself someone they can't do without. It's about identifying that crucial task, responsibility, or skill that they need, but that no one else can handle quite the same way you can. Once you master that, you've created a position that cannot easily be replaced, and suddenly, you're not just another cog in the wheel. You're the one who keeps the wheel turning. This doesn't mean doing everything under the sun or trying to be everything to everyone. It's about focusing on what truly matters to the people who hold power. What are they struggling with? What do they need that others aren't able to provide? That's where your opportunity lies. Take ownership of a task, responsibility, or role that others avoid or aren't interested in. It doesn't matter if it's something small or seemingly unimportant. What matters is that it's something they can't afford to overlook, and no one else can execute it quite like you. When you make that your domain, when you become the person who handles the problem they can't ignore, you're no longer just an employee or an acquaintance. You're an essential part of their operation. It's easy to think that power comes from being the loudest or the most visible, but in reality, the most powerful people often thrive because they are surrounded by individuals who make their success possible in ways that others don't notice. You can be that person, the one who quietly holds everything together, the one who makes things run smoothly without asking for the spotlight. It's not about being flashy or drawing attention to yourself. It's about becoming the foundation that others depend on. Over time, as you take ownership of these critical tasks and responsibilities, you'll find that your position becomes secure. The more they rely on you, the more indispensable you become. And when someone depends on you, they begin to trust you more deeply. The trust you build isn't just professional, it becomes personal. You stop being just a colleague or an acquaintance and become a key player in their world, someone who can't be replaced. This strategy is not about taking over everything or overwhelming the people in power with your presence. Instead, it's about offering value in ways that no one else does. Find those gaps, the things that need to be done but aren't getting attention, and fill them. Make your contribution so valuable that they can't imagine their day-to-day operations without you. When you become that irreplaceable part of their world, you can begin to steer the narrative of your own career or influence. Eventually, this position of dependence isn't just about the tasks you handle, it's about the trust and rapport you build. When you've proven yourself indispensable, you become an integral part of their success. They start to see you not as just someone who gets things done, but as a partner, someone who understands their goals and challenges, and who is indispensable in helping them achieve those goals. This is how real leverage works. You stop being a cog in the machine and become the oil that keeps everything running smoothly. When they rely on you for something they can't afford to lose, you're not just an employee anymore. You're a key player, and that's where true power lies. 12. Control the options. Frame the choices. When it comes to wielding influence, the most powerful person in the room isn't necessarily the one shouting orders or making the most noise. It's the person who controls the options. The ability to frame the choices others have is a subtle yet powerful form of influence. When you present a powerful person with a decision, don't overwhelm them with endless options. Instead, give them a limited set of choices, each one leading toward the outcome you desire. By doing this, you're giving them the illusion of control while still guiding them in the direction you want them to go. This is the kind of power that doesn't feel like manipulation. It feels like a well-thought-out opportunity. The key to this approach is in the framing. Powerful people are constantly making decisions, and the more choices they have, the harder it is for them to decide. Too many options create decision fatigue, and in the face of this, they might choose nothing at all, or they might make a decision that's not in their best interest. So, instead of letting them feel overwhelmed, give them 2 or 3 options, all of which are strategically aligned with your goals. You make the decision-making process easier for them, and in the process, you get the outcome you want. It's a subtle shift, but it's incredibly effective. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." In this context, the power of framing choices lies not in external control, but in the awareness of human behavior. People often think they're making decisions based solely on their own preferences, but the reality is that we're constantly influenced by the way options are presented to us. When you control the options, you are tapping into the deeper psychological patterns that guide decision-making, helping others arrive at conclusions that feel like their own, but are, in fact, directed by you. In any scenario where you need to get someone to make a decision, you can steer them toward the most favorable option by presenting it as the most logical, most beneficial, or most reasonable choice. Instead of asking, "What do you want to do?" which leaves everything open-ended, offer 2 or 3 framed options. Let's say you're negotiating a contract or discussing a project. Instead of simply asking for their input on every little detail, offer them 2 potential outcomes, each with a clear benefit. Frame one of them as the natural next step in a process they're already familiar with, or as the option that most closely aligns with their values. By presenting the choices in this way, you make the decision-making process seem easy, and you subtly nudge them in the direction that aligns with your interests. This approach can be applied in almost any situation, whether it's in business, relationships, or leadership. People appreciate feeling that they're in control, but they also want to feel that their decisions are supported by logic and reason. By framing the options, you allow them to feel empowered while guiding them toward the result you want. It's a delicate balance between control and autonomy, but when done correctly, it's an incredibly effective way to lead without seeming forceful or overbearing. The beauty of framing choices is that it allows you to maintain control over the outcome while respecting the other person's autonomy. It's not about manipulation, it's about understanding human psychology and using that knowledge to create a situation where both parties feel like they've won. You're not forcing their hand, you're simply presenting them with a path that leads to the result you both want, making it the easiest choice for them to make. The next time you find yourself in a situation where you need to guide someone's decision, remember the power of controlling the options. Present the choices clearly and strategically, framing them in a way that aligns with your goals. By doing this, you'll not only increase the likelihood of achieving your desired outcome, but also build trust and rapport with those around you. They'll appreciate your guidance, and in turn, you'll position yourself as a master of influence. 13. Cultivate radical autonomy. Be your own source of power. We all have moments when we seek approval. It's natural, right? We want others to recognize our worth, to validate our efforts, and to give us a sense of belonging. But here's the problem. If you depend on external validation to feel complete, you'll never be truly powerful. The real strength, the kind that commands respect, comes from within. True power isn't about what others think of you, it's about how you see yourself. When you stop looking for approval from others, you begin to tap into a wellspring of strength that doesn't rely on anyone else. This is the essence of radical autonomy, the ability to stand on your own, independent of the opinions and judgments of others. Radical autonomy is more than just a concept, it's a way of life. It's about recognizing that your value doesn't come from outside sources. You stop needing others to validate your worth because you've already done that for yourself. When you no longer seek validation, you become magnetic. People in power are drawn to those who are self-sufficient, who are clear on their own value and don't require constant affirmation. You've probably noticed that the most powerful people in the room are often the ones who don't need to prove anything. They are comfortable in their own skin, and that sense of self-assurance is what makes them stand out. One of the key components of radical autonomy is building your own kingdom, even if it's small. This doesn't mean you need to own a mansion or have a large empire. It means focusing on your own goals, on creating a life that is aligned with your values and vision. When you focus on building something for yourself, something that is uniquely yours, you begin to feel a sense of accomplishment that no external validation can replicate. Your achievements become a reflection of your own effort, not something given to you by others. And this sense of self-reliance makes you more powerful than any external accolade ever could. In this process, your strength becomes internal. When you stop seeking approval, you stop being at the mercy of others' opinions. Your sense of self-worth no longer fluctuates based on whether others praise you or criticize you. You begin to walk through the world with a quiet confidence, grounded in your own sense of purpose and identity. This self-sufficiency doesn't mean you isolate yourself from others, but it does mean you no longer rely on them to feel good about yourself. You become your own source of power, and that energy is what others are drawn to. When you stop seeking validation, something powerful happens. You become the person others seek out. People in power recognize strength, and they are drawn to those who don't need anything from them. You become an asset, not because you're constantly asking for favors or approval, but because you offer something more valuable: self-sufficiency. When you can stand on your own, when you can take care of your own needs and pursue your own goals, you no longer need others to give you permission to succeed. Your success becomes a result of your own inner strength, and that's what makes you truly powerful. So take a step back and ask yourself, what are you building for yourself? Are you waiting for others to give you validation, or are you creating your own source of power from within? Radical autonomy is about taking control of your life, your choices, and your worth. When you stop seeking permission to exist, you unlock a kind of freedom and strength that draws people to you. And that is the kind of power that lasts. Remember, true power comes from within. When you stop seeking approval and start relying on your own strength, you'll become the person others turn to. So, take that step today. Build your own kingdom, trust your own worth, and watch how everything changes. If you found this video insightful, be sure to check out the next one on the screen. It's time to keep growing, keep learning, and keep mastering the art of self-reliance. Thank you for being part of Stoic Journal. Your journey towards true strength begins now.